So what's up? It's VJ, your brother from the ancient mother. Back with the green jacket again. I'm going to be wearing a lot of this jacket. I really like it. Anyways, Headspace album review. Been waiting, not only but I think generally a lot of South African hip-hop fans have been tuned in, plugged in, and anticipating this particular album for a significant moment now. Maglera Doe Boy, Diaspora, or Diaspora, depending on what kind of pronunciation you're into on that day. I'll go with Diaspora, makes more much sense to me. Diaspora, what I think, again, just to press again the point, South Africa's most anticipated rap album of the year, and as a result, with albums that get heavily weighed down by the expectations around them, it can be very difficult to deliver, because catering to an immense bracket of people who have various tastes and appreciate rap in many forms is very difficult. You are not going to please everybody. So one of the curses inherited by artists like Maglera Doe Boy, who tend to relate to a broad scope of rap listeners, is that you pretty much choose to cater to all of them and miss all of them, or cater to a particular group and channel or focus your attention into a certain value point into your music, which is always the safest bet. But artistically, being true to yourself is all that matters really, and who or how it relates to people after that is kind of part of the story. So let's tell the story of Diaspora. One thing I'm gonna say, I love the title, a self-professed montage. Maglera gave me a lot of insight by calling it that, because I feel summing it up as a montage truly gives you a visual impression of what he was going for. For those who are not familiar with the idea, montage is basically summing up a long period of time into a snippet of moments that are able to be compressed in a short space of time. Think of a movie like when the main actor is preparing for a fight, and you basically see them go training in different days with their mentor or master, and then finally they're ready. So you see snippets of them doing an uppercut or a push-up. You know, 90s kids will definitely relate to what I'm talking to. Every Van Damme movie or Stallone movie or Jackie Chan movie had a montage. You have to have a montage. It's too long to show us how long this nigga took to be ready, so just give us 1 minute. So Maglera Doe Boy attempts to give us a minute of what? He gives us a window into South Africa's historical experiences. It's told through his own particular lens as a boy from the townships, particularly at Klerksdorp, and that by result kind of mirrors almost every township story and creates this beautiful mosaic that Maglera so easily is able to articulate. Here's one thing that I think we all know about Maglera Doe Boy at this point: one of South African rap's most prized lyricists. And his lyricism is unique and important for me because there are very few artists among his peers, but just generally, there are very few rap artists who work at defining, structuring, and developing their own unique style. Most people kind of sound like somebody you've heard before. Even worse, they'll probably sound like one of their friends or one of their peers. Maglera sounds like nobody, vacillating from this deep, crazy, assertive voice to twitching it down to a little bit more raspy, sincere tone. He's able to kind of vocally flow from two spectrums, one soft, one hardcore, and at the very same time he has this amazingly rich vocabulary. It's not every day you hear words like tilapia being thrown on rap songs. He's obviously well read and definitely insightful when it comes to his vocab. And it makes him so refreshing because he finds the most unique words to kind of layer into his beautiful cadence of rap. Who the fuck thinks of naming their song Dodu Porvo? I'm sure most of y'all were googling what that means. That's Maglera. He taps us into pockets that are undiscovered. He's got this eccentrically weird fascination with Italian and French and Portuguese and Europe, because like any other kid raised in the townships, his proximity to luxury was far, but he's able to aspire for that. He's able to aspire to the sophistication, the element of being distinguished, and the pride that goes into a lot of these established old world European brands, whether in fashion or just in the world of commerce. And that's Itiming Maglera. He's an extremely insightful and shrewdly intelligent chap from Elokshini with tastes that are definitely way more diverse than three other niggas sitting next to him. And it's important to have cats like that because he's a whole world, he's a universe, and he's able to transplant us into this beautiful world of a aspiration for decadence, yet a groundedness in history. Maglera also knows his South African history. He's able to tell the story of every hood with very vivid expression and give form to narratives that not a lot of rappers are able to deliver in ways that are beyond the typical. It's very easy to rap about Ilokshini using the typical meals or the typical tropes of language, but it's extremely creative to be able to take an active, living, breathing form of language that feels fresh in talking about something that everybody's been talking about before you. So let's take a moment to appreciate Maglera the writer, Maglera the novelist of the South African experience, which all kind of compounds into Maglera the rap artist. He gives us something that on a level is very experimental. How do you judge a good album? It is an album good because of its ability to appeal to current trends in ways that are effective to songwriting, meaning churning out the hits. Is an album good because of its ability to break the mold and send us into a new direction that hasn't been defined before? I don't know, and I think you as the subscribers will help me get to this. In the past, I've reviewed albums based on what they're trying to be. Some artists try to be the former. They fit very neatly into trend, and as a result it can tend to suicide, but when it's done just right, it can breathe new life into tropes that are monotonous and trusted. Some artists are trying to be avant-garde, push the barrier. It can be risky, and a lot of the times you lose people because most immediate audiences are gravitating towards what's trendy, and those who will welcome novelty are often termed outside of that bracket, alternative audiences. And I think outside of this capitalist definition of where audiences fit in, this project aspires to do both. Maglera was torn between giving people that familiarity that they've come to in understanding his place, rising amongst the PTA trap wave, which he's recently inserted in and embedded himself into, working with the likes of Mash Beats and giving us undoubtedly the verse of the year. Even if 2022 isn't done, I doubt anybody's gonna match that. But at the very same time, the special thing about Maglera is that he's always just, you know, maybe that's one of the code switching definitions of what Maglera could be. Other than a name for his hood, he glaringly aspires to be different, and he does it in a way where he studies the greatest of what is out at the moment to configure something that fits into the scope of his own particular hood. So there's a Mutswako strand there, and this is why even Kuli Chana has always put himself out there as Maglera's poster child mentor. Whether or not he's really done a lot for him behind the scenes is a story to be told as Maglera's career unfolds. But we've all seen what Kulichana's mere presence and support has done to boost Maglera's profile. Maglera surrounds himself with OGs. KG from Mutswako is in 2 of these songs. There's a flavor to this album that feels very much like a throwback to a dream that involves Double HP and Mutswako and that whole movement. He definitely gives a nod to what bounces off of his tongue indigenously, but at the very same time, he's a broad dude. There's a lot of isiXhosa and isiZulu swimming in his bloodline. This is somebody who definitely is more than just the narrow Mutswako artist, and by narrow I mean it in all flattering ways. He doesn't just ride this one big established lane, but he tries to give us so many dimensions of what rap is right now and could be. The question is, does he do it? I think he does. I think this album is good, not because it fits into trend, but because it dares to break the trend. And I do think because of that, people who are very comfortable with the former will be lost. People who wanted Maglera to give us a rendition of what's going on in the game right now will feel isolated. But god damn it, I want to say there comes a time in an artist's career where they have to choose whether they want to truly tell the stories of what is actively happening in the world and in their lives, or they really just want to chase this capitalistic rat race which determines for them how to interpret their art. Maglera is the last of a dying breed. He's constantly choosing to tell stories that are living in the moment and not caricatures of what we think is going on in the country. Diaspora is that. He talks about it being a journey into remembering. It's very much in the mold of the idea of Sankofa. Retrieve, take it back. This album is it has Afrocentric strands in it. It's a black nationalist tone. It has strands of mysticism. He looks up into the sky and is able to give thanks to whatever greater force, yet he also looks below and sticks his hands deep into the soil as a child of the earth. He's able to appreciate the feminine archetype in ways that are more than just opportunistic and hypermasculine and sexualizing. He's able to put women on a pedestal and say, because we come through that vortex, femininity makes more of a natural inclination into godliness than does the archetype of the man. Maglera is able to weave together, again, the same old township story in new and refreshing and frighteningly creative ways. His vocabulary is dense, deep, bouncy, and exciting. The sound scope of this album, painted by a cat called Ism Beats, and a lot of it also with Mash Beats on the side and a couple of other notable producers, is really what he alluded to. It's glimpses into different sonic moments, and what these moments try to do is that they're trying to take that hyper distilled 808 key based synthy sound that's become classical trap and kind of force it into the furnace of South Africa's current spirit. I've been complaining about albums which, when I close my eyes, don't send me to South Africa but kind of transplant and transport English bundles me into this forced Atlanta-esque world where a lot of trap artists are simply just mimicking the wave and trying to forcefully bring it home. This team has worked on doing the opposite. They've worked on saying, what is today's South African trap sound? What are the echoes of the youth really saying to us? So I want to say kudos to the production team for giving us moments that truly speak of what is going on right now. And I think because of having a lot to say and having very little time to say it, there are moments where this album jumps thematically into so many different places, and as a result it's pretty difficult for me to say if there are tracks for the club, there are tracks for intimate moment, there are tracks for intimate for isolation and reflection, because what Maglera attempts to do is all of the above each time. And I think what ends up happening is an album that is suspended into a place where it's probably not going to really settle into the clubs, and it's probably not going to settle into a lot of people's cars. But what it's going to do is that it's going to scratch at our souls in ways that are going to become continuously reminiscent of where we're going as a country. And the only other artist I've ever known to do that, I'm going to start internationally, is Kanye West. Kanye West has always confused us into places that eventually make sense. Kanye West has taken from the past and was able to engineer it in ways that kind of made us nervous to step along with him. But the songwriting was always encouraging enough to delve and to follow Kanye wherever he went. Maglera just did that. I feel like if a lot of people are really into his rapping, he will take you into these very strange and unfamiliar places. And you will find a way to make it work if you're vibing with your friends on Yengo Dinner, you just want to have a good time. Truth is, this album has the potential to be anything and everything you want it to be. It's so malleable and flexible like that, and I don't know how the fuck they did it, but they did. So I want to just take a moment to say I've been complaining about not having a trap South African sound, and I feel like Maglera's inclination answered those echoes. This is a very strangely alluring place that he's taken me, and I think any fan or any listener who's brave enough to let the music lead them and not really rest on the laurels of trend. Because if you're gonna judge this based on the albums you've heard before, from whether Tato Soul or
25K
or 25K or Tyson Sabatelli or even A. Reese, then it really does not compare. And maybe that is what would make it a bad album. I swear to God, if this album has to be measured according to its ability to relate to current trend, it fails dismally. But the question is that truly inferior? I think we're gonna wake up very, very soon because of the way time is moving and appreciate this album sooner than anticipated. Some of us will do in this immediate moment. But to zap back into that, brave and experimental in ways that work. Because again, it borrows from different eras of this country's pivotal cultural moments. Sonically, lyrically, thematically. And it's able to now digest all of this in a new form. So I do want to say, I think we have a potential classic on our hands. I want to say that. And I want to say that conclusively. The lyrics, the bars, the narrative, the storytelling, the originality, the mass appeal, the emotional depth, the zeal to experiment, and I think the worst song on this album is way better than most songs that have dropped this year. This is to just say, for me, this is a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Alright?
Yeah.
I haven't given a 10 out of 10 since King Joe. And these albums, King Joe and Maglera's albums, are for me blueprints. Here, there's a second one now. To how to take the best of what South Africa has done so far and add your unique DNA. King Joe's DNA was Xhosa royalty. Maglera's DNA is the street poet philosopher of our time. He is the poet Yama 2000. He is the he's beyond Drake. When I listen to Maglera Doe Boy, he's like a contemporary Kasi Tupac. Very few artists are able to sound both on point, snazzily charismatic, and yet so profound and unpreachy, yet so smart, so goddamn profound. So I do want to say, for me, this is a perfect project from an artist who's showing us that if you open your heart and take in everything that's happening in your world and find a way to mix that into an alchemy of what's happening, you will regurgitate something people might not associate with what's cool right now, but something that is able to take the DNA of coolness in itself and stretch it to its fullest potential. And it all kind of spirals into the title, Diaspora. Maglera is saying capitalism, consumerism, and pop culture has a way of drilling into our souls and scattering our guts across the dance floor of Western imperialism. And very few artists have the courage to put it upon themselves to piece together the body of the African. This is what he's doing. He's taking us in all these different corners and pockets that rap has taken us to, that hip-hop has taken us to. If you appreciate your lyricism, if you appreciate your dancing, if you appreciate your cadences, if you appreciate your flows, Maglera is literally webbing together all conceivable aspects of what hip-hop is and trying to compress them into one potent single experience. Is he the Moses that can lead these lost people, quote unquote, sonically lost, culturally lost, into a creative promised land where things make more sense? I think that metaphor works. And I think to kind of top it all off, this is an album made for the people's fame, for the Dodo Boy. He goes to many different places, but I think ultimately this is an artist who's saying what matters right now is that we address our pain, because if we don't, then we'll keep using our pain to try and run away and make ourselves temporarily happy. But if we just go at the center of what we're feeling and address it, then we have a chance at a more permanent sense of happiness, which is not happiness at all, but being content, where even in the tough times, it's worth it because you've done the work, you've done the internal mechanism of searching your own soul. This is an album for that. Thank you, Maglera Doe Boy, for taking rap into its most spiritual place and returning to its most carnal place to attempt to attain and address both worlds. We are spiritual, but we are also physical. These things are a balance. They work in a mechanism or in a cycle you will call yin-yang, whatever you want to call it. These are the workings of the universe. Maglera is a child of the universe, attempting to teach us how the universe works at such a young age. Poet Yama 2000, 10 out of 10 from me. VJ the brother from the ancient mother. Enough ranting and raving. I'm just glad SA hip hop has hope.